So in this video we're going to take our rings that I've taken off the former, and we're going to start sanding them down to what we want. Okay, so probably the easiest way to do this, because it's a rather small component, would be to take some sandpaper and between, one between every 2 students or something like that, tape some down. And what I've got here is 3 grades of sandpaper, so rough, medium and fine. When you kind of look at this, you can feel it, but if you're not too sure, you can see here on the numbers 120 and 80 grit. So you want some kind of high enough numbers as you kind of get to here. And essentially what I'm going to do is kind of apply this down here, just because sometimes it's a bit difficult to kind of get it exact, and sometimes it's difficult to kind of get your hands in there and all that. So I'm just going to take my ring and I'm going in kind of a circular motion. Okay, and same on both sides. You'll notice that that's kind of the fit that I was looking for. That kind of fits quite well. Now it does take a little bit of time. Okay, but you can see there it starts to line up the way that you might want it to. And you can start to take some of the harder corners off after a little bit. Okay, so that's not too bad. Okay. And just you can imagine that this can be maybe a bit easier to do it this way than to try and get your hands like that. Sometimes it's just easier to kind of do it this way. Now as you kind of get to that point, okay, just double check that it is still kind of the fit that you want. I can see here that I've started to kind of go down on one side, I think potentially just the way that I was holding it. So keep an eye on it as you go along. And the more pressure you apply on maybe one side might affect it. So do try to rotate it around within your hand so that you're not just kind of standing on the one edge the whole time. Once you've kind of got it, nearly there, I suppose, once you're happy-ish with it, you can also go over the actual outer surface of the ring, very lightly now, mind you. It wouldn't go very hard on it. Just anything that's kind of sticking out. You'll kind of know when you see, there might be some parts that need to be kind of looked at again and again. So I can feel here a little lump, and I'm just kind of doing that with my hand. And as I'm doing it, I'm kind of twisting my hand. So I'm not just focusing on one edge, I'm kind of getting a bit of a twist on it. So that's now feeling pretty smooth, feeling pretty good about that. I'm going to do the same thing here. Okay, so the idea here is that as you progress through, you should start to feel like this is for kind of taking off lots, less, and the very least here. So you shouldn't have like lots of material to take off on this edge. This is going to take off the most, this is the middle, and then this is like just a finishing touch really. Okay, you can start looking at the corners there a little bit. Kind of not doing this like, yeah, okay, even a little bit there now. Okay. That's not too bad there now. Quite happy with that outer surface. And then, like this one I've kept loose because I want to be able to get on the inside. So I can roll that up if I wish. Okay. Sometimes people like to roll it around like a shape that we can use. A little bit like that. Okay, now, like this is something that is like a little bit of a labor of love. You want to make sure that you've got this all right and all correct. And you know, you don't want to rush on to the next stage until you are perfectly happy with how this feels in your hand. Okay. So that's. Now do be careful that you don't take too much off the inside, otherwise it's going to be the wrong size for your hand. But that's looking pretty good. Test it out. Does it feel good? Does it feel like it's the right size? Potentially, like depending on how kind of big you've made this, you might want to come back here and maybe make it a bit smaller. So like, for example, if I put this here, you know, that's taking up quite a large chunk of my finger. Do I want that? You know, that's very much up to you and your style. You know, but if you want something that's rather thin, you might come back and take a little bit more off. And like I said, just a little bit is all you need to take off on this. Okay, so just kind of like that on the outside, and you know, pretty gentle on the outside. All right, we're not trying to like deface it or anything like that. We just want to look pretty neat and tidy. Now at this point, as I'm getting to this end point, I'm following along the grain. Okay, so I don't want to be going like across the grain. I want so when I'm sanding it, I'm going along the grain there, okay? Because when I go to varnish it at the end, it's going to kind of follow along that grain. But if I have like these cut marks kind of all the way along, like for where we've been sanding it, it's not going to look so good. So just one of those little things, keep it along the grain there. Okay, a bit like that, a bit like that. Okay, any pencil marks or anything like that you see, anything that you don't want on your final product, you need to remove that now, okay? If you've got any sharp edges that you want to remove, you do that now, okay? And typically then at this kind of point, I would just kind of give it a run over in my fingers, make sure that there's no splinters, nothing funny. That I'm happy with the size of it. Yeah, that's quite nice there. Okay, and once you have that, you know, that's kind of like a good fit. Okay, you can, the next stage would be to varnish that. So I'll just get that ready. Okay, and I'm back here now. So I've just kind of wiped away any of the dust that I don't want. Okay, so your workspace should be pretty clean. Okay, and we're going to use this water-based polyacrylic protective finish. So this is maybe a little bit different to what you would have used. It's not a varnish in the traditional sense, but it's water-based, so it will clean up quite cleanly at the end. We don't have to have any kind of particular materials or anything like that. Like, we don't have to wash it up using solvents or anything like that. So it does make for a nice clean wash up. So we can do this with the cloth actually. So if you've got a cloth and just pop in a drop there, a very small amount is all you need on this. Okay, and you can see like almost instantly. Can you see that quite clearly there now? But it's gone like just a different, like just that clearer shade of dark there. Just kind of quite clean, quite clear. When you're doing this, make sure that you have no dust or dirt or pencil marks. You want this to be kind of perfect. Don't worry if you get any of this on your finger. It is, it's all water based, so like it's not going to like be damaging your skin or anything like that. Okay. A very thin layer is all you want. Now this is a bit thick. Okay, so taking that material there, this polyacrylic protective finish, okay, and essentially what we're going to do is take a clean cloth, make sure that there's no debris, no dust, pencil marks, anything like that on this, and a very thin coat. We can always put more on, but a nice thin coat is all you need. And I don't know, can you see that there very well? But there is like a marked difference there between where the varnish is and where it's not varnished. So like it does help like the grain color pop a little bit. It does come out quite nice and interesting looking. Okay. Now, if you're doing like me and you've got a cloth, okay, just make sure that like nothing off the cloth gets dried into it, like none of the fibers or anything like that. Okay, and the general rule of thumb is you want the thinnest layer of acrylic varnish, polyacrylic varnish on as possible. Okay, you can always put more on later, but what you don't want is like drops of paint, or well, not paint, but it'll look like paint on this. Okay, nice thin coat. Don't worry if you get it on your skin. This material is water based, so it's it's non-toxic. It's pretty good for what we need. Okay, and then I'm going to do the same on the inside here. So again, taking a tiny amount, a drop is all I need. Okay, just a tiny amount, a drop all around the inside. Okay, and like I don't know if you can see that, like that kind of whiteness. I don't want too much of that. So if I've got too much, get a new dry piece of cloth, wipe off the excess. A nice thin coat. Like I said, you can always put more on later. That's not too bad there now. Okay, so we can see there's already like a difference in the color, and it'll start to dry in probably by the time you finish it, like it'll probably be dry. So give it 5 minutes, come back to it, and then what we'll do is we'll put on a second and a third coat. We want a few coats of this polyacrylic varnish just to give like a nice hard outer shell, just to protect your ring from bumps and wear and tear. Okay, hopefully now it's been a few minutes. Okay, it's dried pretty well now here for me. I'm going to take maybe just another, just make sure that I, as I kind of feel around, I don't feel anything that I don't want there. Okay, that it's nice and smooth the whole way around. Get a new piece of cloth, and this could be just a tiny amount. Okay, it doesn't need to be a huge amount, just so that the material can soak up that varnish, the polyacrylic coating. Okay, so same idea again, just a very thin coat. Yeah, so that's pretty nice there now, and I'll do the same on the inside. Okay, just a very thin coat. And like I said, if you end up with too much, grab a dry piece of your cloth and just give it an extra wipe. Okay, maybe a little bit more here, and a little bit more here. Okay, nice and smooth all the way around. Okay, you could continue this for a third or a fourth coat if you like. I'm not going to do any more because, well, I don't need one. But 3-4 coats is fine. Just make sure that as you go through, that you don't accidentally trap like any dust or like cloth fibers or anything underneath it. That it's clean each time you start, clean and dry. Okay, but just looking at it there now, it's already starting to dry up, and there's your wooden ring.